is all outbound like 100% spam?
No, it isn't. I mean, I could see why you could argue it is. Like, it's sort of like, right? It's like even spam works sometimes, right? Otherwise, people wouldn't do it, right? It's like you see those like really shitty like scam outbound. Like, people wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work sometimes, right? I'm not saying it should work, but they wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work sometimes. But in general, I'll use another like old, I guess this is more Victorian era, but the tragedy of the commons. So I think one of the problems with outbound is that it does not exist in a vacuum. It doesn't matter if you're doing it really, really well. The fact that everyone else around you is doing it poorly is going to make it more challenging for you because it's a shared channel, right? Like if I'm a buyer and I'm getting I'm getting like more outbound than ever. And there was some stat, and don't quote me on the exact number because I can't remember the exact source, but that the amount of outbound the average buyer in B2B experiences is 4 to 5 times higher than it was just 3 years ago. So buyers are now more likely to screen their phone calls or block unknown numbers or put spam filters on their inbox or install ad blockers and things like that because the volume has just gotten so great that they're going to throw out the good outbound with the bad outbound because they can't deal with it. And I remember having this conversation probably a year ago with a sales leader who was like, he told me I was a bad CEO because I didn't respond to outbound. And he's like, you don't know. He's like, you might be missing that one thing that's going to change your business's trajectory forever. And I was like, okay, sure. But that's assuming that like one, the person cold emailing me or calling me knows my business better than I do, which I really, really, really doubt is the case. If they do, that's probably why I'm a shit CEO. If like a random person trying to sell me something knows my business better than I do. But secondly, I'm not even like a big buyer, right? We're a small company. I can't even imagine what it's like for someone at a 500 or 1,000 person company. If all I did was respond to outbound and answer phone calls, I would probably never have time to do my actual job.
Seriously.
So I understand the people who get into this camp of feeling like all outbound is spam because there is so much of it that even if it's 1 in 50, 1 in 100, 1 in 200 are good and relevant, it just becomes a lot easier just to tune it all out and just say, nope, I just will not respond to that because I physically don't have time for it.
Yeah. And how do you think AI is going to like it? I assume you think AI is going to exacerbate the problem. And, I will share as a buyer of B2B products and services, I don't answer the phone, and I don't, if I get a text message that's not from someone I know, I just report it as spam. And then for people that use the in-mail thing, to message me on LinkedIn, I'll just block them. So I'm building my own little, fort around myself because I just dislike outbound so much. What now? There's a lot of talk about like AI making outbound scale up even more. And do you also think that it's just going to scale up the crap? Or is there actually some like benefit to
it's just going to amplify it. Like once again, like the tragedy of the commons problem, right? It's like, it doesn't matter if you or I are using AI to do it really, really well. It's going to make it so easy for everyone else to do it poorly. The problem is just going to get worse. And I think it's sort of like, we go back to like the outbound that works, right? The outbound that works is inherently not AI driven. It's very specific. It's very like one-to-one. And yeah, AI can maybe do some of it. I'm not saying it's not going to help or it won't have a use and it won't have a place, but I think it's going to do more harm than good in the short term, at least. Who knows? Like we have perfect AI agents in 3 years that just run the world. It doesn't really matter. Outbound won't exist in any form, right? Like AI agents will just like telepathically talk to each other and buy and sell, and it won't matter what we think.